In this lecture, let's discuss some tips on what to do and what not to do as a distributed software engineer. Tip number 1 is about sharing information. It is good to share public holidays and vacation plans well in advance. When working distributed, there's oftentimes different cultures involved that leads to various regional events, festivals, and holidays. For example, there's the King's Day in the Netherlands, and there's Diwali in India, and 4th of July in the United States, Chinese New Year in China. It is important to let distributed developers know about these holidays in advance so there's no surprises during the last moment of notice. Tip number 2 is about code sharing and check-ins. Do make sure that you are making multiple check-ins of code during a day to the source code repository. And let the source code repository be the one-stop shop for all and any changes in the code base. If any developer needs to pick up from where another developer left off, use source code repository for sharing. And seldom share source code via zip files because the accountability factor of who checked in what and who contributed what is lost if you share source code via zip files. And in a highly collaborative environment, sometimes distributed developers would pick up writing code from where it was left by another developer living in another time zone. A third tip is about meeting each other. Meet face to face as much as possible or as much time and budget allows. Nothing beats face-to-face communication. Online handshakes can't stand a chance with real in-person handshake. And do a big software development kickoff when starting off as a software development endeavor. Strive for doing it face-to-face, bringing the entire distributed team in one location. New people, new teams could be challenging to work with, and given the fact that there is multiple geographies involved, there needs to be some kind of kickoff event when the development team starts. Distributed software development teams and developers need to be aligned with the business goals about why we're doing this particular software. Make sure every developer introduces themselves and talks beyond what's written on their resume. For instance, things like aspects of their culture, famous tourist attractions from the place they come from, personal interests, family background, and so on. Because if there is no feel of togetherness between distributed developers, it's a recipe for disaster. And if for any reason bringing together all developers is not possible because of various constraints, then turn to the collaboration tools that we discussed in the previous lecture. Now, fourth tip, organize tech talks between distributed teams and encourage people to learn and present the new trends in software development. Because when working deep in the code, it becomes very difficult to catch up with what's happening with the technology world outside. While there are many ways to catch up with recent technology trends, in order to benefit as a distributed team, encourage people within the distributed team to pick a topic, learn, research, and present to other developers in the distributed team. Sometimes software developers comment that the work that they're doing is mundane and their technology stack has come to a point of saturation. However, the business owners and stakeholders bank on the software development teams to do technology innovations, such as the ones that would add more value to the business. And a fifth tip is about transparency. Do maintain transparency between fellow developers and distributed business owners and stakeholders. In rapid software development techniques and models, business owners and stakeholders may refer to a variety of groups of people, namely product owners, business analysts, product managers, program managers, investors, end users, customers, and so on. And when there is a challenge that needs to be addressed, or there is a blocker issue that is impeding the pace and quality of software development, raise all kinds of flags and alarms to attract attention and get those issues sorted out. And if transparency reduced between the fellow distributed developers and business owners, the ensuing software may not just produce the intended outcome. Those are some 5 good tips for a distributed software developer and the things that they should be doing in a distributed software development environment. And now, let's look at some of the things that a distributed software engineer should refrain from doing. First on the list, do not wait for email responses. Email is a collaboration tool of the past. And when there is a question that needs to be answered by a fellow developer, or there is a code review comment that needs clarification, or there is a sudden question with the business value of a particular feature delivers, and we need to talk to the business owners about it, or there's a new way identified to implement a particular feature and it calls for a design discussion, or it can be anything that needs to be discussed. Make use of the collaboration tools, video calling, screen sharing, shared code editing and reviewing, interactive whiteboarding, and so on. But email is not one of those things because it's very slow and it's a thing of the past. But these video collaboration tools promote higher rate of collaboration between distributed developers. And oftentimes, written communication is prone to assumptions and misinterpretations, especially the misinterpretations and assumptions that might lead to some other assumptions. So when there is a need to talk, use the state-of-the-art video calling and other collaboration tools. And number 2, do not context switch between different feature developments, or do not interrupt someone during their focused time either. This is very important. Remember the last don't that said collaborate as often as you can? That comes with a caveat. That is, it could lead to awful amount of context switching. Sometimes distributed teams comment that they are interrupted often by fellow developers over the globe trying to get feedback about their code or design, and vice versa. It happens both ways. And in order to avoid being interrupted and paying the price for context switching, some teams reserve some collaboration hours or collaboration schedule. And some other teams also reserve do not disturb time. So in that particular time, they shut off all kinds of desktop notifications from communication tools like email, instant messaging, chat rooms, and so on. And ensure the time that is reserved for collaboration, there's a large or sufficient amount of overlap between distributed teams' time zones to facilitate a higher degree of collaboration. And practices like these allow for a developer and distributed teams to be focused on what they're doing at that moment, and hence ensuring a huge amount of productivity. And number 3, do not do it all alone. Call for help when you're stuck. Although there is a joy in figuring out technical solutions by oneself, when working together with distributed teams, together there is a goal that needs to be achieved for a particular iteration, and reserve the R&D, the research and development kind of work, for a later point of time. And when you're stuck at that particular thing for a considerable amount of time, call for help. Involve other developers via video chat rooms and distributed coding environments, or even screen sharing sessions. Pair programming is also possible with distributed and the aforementioned collaboration tools. Number 4, do not let the geographical distance determine whether it is right to give critical feedback for a fellow developer. Be bold to give the feedback that is required for the benefit of the team. And in order to give such feedback, it is not required to always wait for an event like the sprint retrospective or any other kind of event where we give and take feedback to each other that happens at a particular schedule. If there is something that is bothering you, maybe that some comments that were neglected in a code review, or some design ideas were not considered, or some developers do not just feel important about the work that they're doing, it is very crucial to have these discussions right at the heat of the moment. Otherwise, things may fall into cracks, leading to loss of collaboration and so many other functions of a distributed team. Number 5. Oftentimes, during design discussions and code reviews, in discussions where technical improvements are suggested, by the nature of software development, there are many ways to solve one particular problem, or there are many ways to build one particular feature technically. And as software developers, we make choices between time required to compute and the space required to compute. And when some ideas are knocked down, give the benefit of doubt to another developer living in another time zone and see what results come out. And when deciding between time and speed, if there is a prolonged discussion or difference in opinion leading to a conflict, sometimes it's good to involve business owners and ask them what's important for that particular feature and let them make those trade-offs in terms of speed and time for you. Remember, at the end of the day, we build software that serves a business purpose. So, these are the main lessons from the daily life of a distributed software engineer. But most important, don't forget, it's a lot of fun working with people all around the globe, making great software that adds value to the life of the users. What more can you ask for?